I'm working harder than ever, but I never get promoted. Have you ever said that? Have any of your friends said that? It happens when people are still playing checkers in their career when the game has changed to chess. So if you want to be stuck in checker mode for the rest of your career, stop listening. But if you want to get out of that mode, here are 5 things that I'm going to share today that will help you learn how to play chess in your career. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Career. This is issue 574. If you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, play chess in your career, not checkers. And it's all about how to be more strategic at work. So, as a career coach, I often hear some variation of this complaint. I'm putting in long hours. I'm working harder than ever. Why am I not getting promoted? What's going wrong? I have heard that complaint probably hundreds of times during my career, sometimes from friends, sometimes from people on my team. They were wondering why they're not getting ahead if they're working really, really hard. And sure, working harder than your colleagues, your peers at work, can get you promoted during the early years of your career. I mean, you still have to do good work. You still have to deliver quality. Working hard without that, it's not going to get you ahead. But if you're doing good work and you're working hard and you're early in your career, and I remember when I was just starting out as an entry-level designer, you get ahead, you get promoted. It's kind of time in, right? You work hard, put in a year, you get promoted, a couple years. But then something happens. You soon discover that what got you to where you are today, what got you to where you are in your career right now, won't get you to where you want to be tomorrow. Something's going wrong. And that's because most people play checkers with their careers. I'm sure you've heard this statement. Have you heard this before? Hey, they're playing chess, not checkers. But I do see that. People playing checkers with their career. They're hopping around the game board. They're marching ahead step by step. And they don't think more than one move ahead. I mean, that is the game of checkers. The game board looks similar. A chessboard and a checkerboard look a lot alike. And as I said, in the early days of your career, you and the other pieces, your colleagues, are making the same moves. You're trying to get ahead, moving space by space. And then eventually one day you find out that strategy is just not going to cut it anymore. Your career growth is limited when you keep behaving like a checker piece on the corporate chess game board. And unfortunately, as I said, many people experience that. They think doing more of the same will continue to move them ahead. What if I just worked harder? What if I put in longer hours? I stay longer. I work 12-hour days. I come in on the weekend. What if I take on more work? And they get overloaded with projects. And sadly, that is the path to career stagnation and abuse. Yes, abuse. I've watched many people get used by their employers. Many managers love dumping work on the people who work hard. Kind of makes sense. Hey, they work hard, they get things done, let's give them more work. They dump work on the people that don't complain. I'm sure you've seen that. I have been guilty of that myself. I have worked hard, I didn't complain, and lo and behold, I just got more work. And they dump work on those people that never ask for raises or promotions. And they assume that silence is golden, that the person's okay, they're happy. And if they don't ask for a raise or promotion, you don't have to give it. It saves the company money. That happens. That's why I said abuse. So if you want to avoid being stuck in checker mode, and I assume you do if you're still listening to this, there are 5 things you must do. 1, become a valuable chess piece. Become a chess piece. Stop being a checker. 2, use strategic long-term planning. 3, leverage pattern recognition. 4, make sacrificial moves when necessary. And last but not least, number 5, play leadership chess too. So let me dive into each of these. Number 1, become a valuable chess piece. If you want to play chess, and I assume you do because you want to get ahead in your career, you must qualitatively change how you work and transform the value you deliver. Qualitatively, not quantitatively. Leaders, managers, people that get put into higher positions, they don't get promoted because they work harder than their peers. That may happen in the early days, but as I said, that changes as you move up. Managers and leaders get promoted because they think differently. They add unique value. They know how to get results. Because it is more about the scale. It's not just about how you work. It's how the people you're going to lead work, what you can deliver. These are the people that know how to make 1 + 1 = 3. They're not simply adding quantitative value. They're not doing more. They're doing something different. And I remember the day my boss told me that. I had been promoted and I'd moved into a senior leadership position. And I was still doing a little bit of the stuff I had done as a senior individual contributor. And I did this, I don't know why. It's familiar, it's comfortable. We often do that. That's why you see leaders who are engineers who still like to code, designers who still like to design. It's what we did for many years. It's what got us to where we are. We're good at it. We're comfortable with it. I did it because it helped me think. It's how I thought through things. So I was still doing stuff to communicate with my team with some hands-on work. And they said, "What are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. You should no longer be doing that. You should no longer be opening Photoshop or Illustrator." This is long before Figma and Sketch. You are the leader. There are things you should be doing that are more valuable than you spending time on your laptop designing stuff. That was an aha moment for me. That was a qualitative change that I had to make in the way I was performing if I wanted to keep moving up and getting ahead. And you see that with chess too. If you observe world-class chess players, or even people who are really good at chess, they don't randomly flail away moving pieces all over the board. They don't just hop, jumping around. They are never just thinking one step ahead and thinking, I hope things work out. I'm going to move this piece. I hope that works out. I'm going to move this piece now. I hope that works out. And that's because it levels up. The game levels up beyond just competing with pawns, which behave a lot like checker pieces. The more powerful pieces, the knights, the rooks, the bishops, the king, queen, they are different. They have more powerful moves. So you have to stop behaving like an interchangeable checker piece. An interchangeable checker piece can be replaced by any other checker piece. And I'm not talking about the ones that get kinged. I'm talking about just a regular checker piece. And in the game of checkers, every piece has the same capabilities. They all do the same thing. They all hop 1 space forward. So you can be easily replaced if you are a commodity with the same skills as everyone else. That is so dangerous. That is so risky. And that has happened a lot over the last few years. I mean, heck, maybe the employers can even find a cheaper piece to replace you. And if they can do that, they will. They will. I've watched that happen many times over the decades of my career. I worked in Silicon Valley. I worked in tech. Guess what we did for a lot of the entry-level positions? Entry-level engineers, entry-level designers. We offshored. And it's changed over the years. We used to offshore a lot of our jobs, our roles to people in India. It was a lot more affordable. You could hire 3 people for the price of 1 person in California. The company loved doing that. And when you are an entry-level person, you're a checker piece. Why not? They don't care. Companies don't care. I've talked about this before. I've often seen a senior employee replaced with a more affordable junior employee who could do the same work because that more senior employee who cost more, had a bigger salary, was acting like a checker piece. They were just doing the same work they'd been doing before, and a junior employee who could replace them way cheaper. That senior employee had not learned how to level up to be a chess piece. And I remember being in a meeting with an executive, with a CEO even, and we'd given them a quote for some work to be done, and had a US-based, California-based designer, a California-based engineer. And they said, "Why should we pay this much for a US employee? Why? I can hire 3 people in this other country for that." Because they were just comparing checker to checker. They weren't thinking about the qualitative difference. And it is true, a basic US checker piece, as I said, was often replaced with more affordable international pieces. And guess what else happened? About every 6 months, those basic pieces were also put on the layoff list. So when very senior leadership came around and asked the managers, who can you put on the list? Where's your bottom 10%? They would put those checker pieces because they're like, I can replace them later if I need to. But I don't want to lose my more valuable chess pieces. I have to keep them. And those employees who had leveled up to provide unique strategic value, they were never replaced. I don't know if you've seen this yourself, but those employees rarely lose their jobs. They decide to move on. They find other opportunities. They don't get put on layoff lists. They don't get fired. Their cost was never questioned. Instead, those chess pieces were assigned the best projects, the most challenging projects. They were the ones promoted when the review cycles rolled around every year. Sometimes every single year. Sometimes leaders would be like, you're promoting them again? It's like, wow, come on. Is there no one else that should be promoted? People like taking care of their chess pieces. And I often ran into the unfortunately common belief that tenure, time spent in the company, time in a role, will eventually lead to a promotion. It's inevitable, right? Some employees thought they would keep moving up the career ladder if they simply stayed with the company long enough. And I'm sorry, but higher level promotions simply don't work that way. It's never about tenure. I've never seen someone promoted to director or vice president because they've been in the company a long time. Hey, they're in the company for a long time. Let's go ahead and just bump them to VP. Never works that way. A pawn or a checker piece that has been with the company for 5 years, but still acts and performs like a pawn or a checker piece, will not be promoted to knight or rook simply because of tenure. It's not going to happen. You have to level up and transform yourself qualitatively. Change the value you deliver, or you will be stuck where you are forever. Number 2, use strategic long-term planning. The professionals who end up succeeding in their careers are thinking many, many steps ahead. They are never simply focused on their next career move. That's just not the way they think. And I have some friends like this. I know some colleagues like this. They have a vision for where they want to be several years from now, sometimes even decades from now, sometimes even at the pinnacle of their career. And I talk with my clients about this. I say, where do you want to end up at the end of your career? Where do you want to end up where you can look back and say, I'm happy with that. I'm fulfilled. I'm satisfied. I did everything I wanted to do. I feel good about retiring. And if you watch these people, every move they make is intentional. Every move sets them up for the next move and the next and the next. They are using strategic thinking instead of scattered and mindless hopping. They don't just job hop. They don't hop from role to role. They have something in mind. They have a plan. One of my old colleagues and a dear friend had a very clear vision for where they wanted to end up in their career. They wanted to be a C-level executive in a public company, quite clearly. And we were both really pretty junior people, kind of mid-level. But we weren't even managers yet when we had this conversation. We talked about it a lot. And I've had the pleasure of watching them make moves over the last decade or so. Every move they made was deliberately planned to help them advance toward that goal. I know because we often talked about it. Every new project that they took on, they thought, is this project going to set me up for where I want to be, or is it going to sidetrack me? Every new connection they added to their network. How can this person help me with my ultimate goal? Is this the right person? I tell people to think about that. You have to level up the power of your network. Are you meeting senior people, leaders, investors? Or are you filling your network with other junior peers who are great to have as peers, but are they going to open doors for you? Probably not. Every new skill that he acquired, every new experience they added. New domains. I'm talking with people right now who are thinking, where should I invest my energy in learning a new domain? What's going to be hot for the next 10 years? Is it artificial intelligence? I don't know. Maybe. Mixed thoughts about that. Is it robotics? Maybe. New jobs. Every new job, this person agonized over that decision. Was this the right employer? And it's not always the most obvious employer. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, I want to get a job at a FAANG company, as if that's going to be the magic kingdom. That's going to be the golden key that opens every door. This person took a job with a company you probably don't even know because of what it set them up for. And I've done that too. I took a job with a way less sexy company, and it paid off. It paid off. I got promoted every year. I moved up. That's why I eventually became a vice president, is I was intentionally selecting opportunities that were going to advance me professionally, that allowed a company to invest in me, for me to develop my skills. And doing that set me up for where I eventually wanted to be. Founded my own startup, started my own company. And when you have these long-term goals in mind, you have this vision for yourself, your professional vision for your career, you recognize opportunities when they appear. I've talked about this before. There is something that happens. It's a priming effect. If you know what you want, you see an opportunity and recognize it for what it is instead of letting it pass by. And I watched this person do this, making these smart moves year after year until they finally did. They did land that C-level role. They were a C-level executive for many years. They've done very well, professionally and financially. And it was a very clever game of corporate chess, not checkers. By the way, if you want to talk about how to do strategic long-term planning for your career, how to create a vision, how to put together a plan and a roadmap to get you there, you can schedule a free strategy call with me, and we can work through that. If you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, go to this article, and you can find the big button that says schedule free call. Yeah, get some time with me and we can talk through it. I do not push anything. I'm not going to try to sell you on anything. I just enjoy doing it. Number 3, leverage pattern recognition. So my grad school advisor was really into chess. I mean, really into chess. He was an excellent player. He played with another graduate student who was also another great player. I mean, they played in competitions and things like that. But he was also a psychologist who researched expert players. He was fascinated with it. He's been doing that research for a long time. And what they found is that great chess players have a stronger conceptual knowledge of the game. They really understand the concepts behind the game, not just, oh, this piece moves here and this piece moves there. And they become really good at recognizing familiar patterns. They did some cool experiments where they would show a configuration of a game that was in play, hide it, and then see if they could reconstruct it, if they could remember it. And they could, way better than people who were not as good at chess and didn't have that conceptual knowledge. So they start to recognize patterns, and they can remember these patterns. Similarly, successful professionals master the rules of the corporate game. And it's a game. It is a big corporate game. If you haven't figured that out by now, you're dealing with other human beings who are all jockeying for position. It's a big competitive game. And you got to learn the rules. You got to learn the rules. It's not as obvious as you think it is. And if you master that and you start to recognize familiar patterns in the company dynamics, like, oh, I see what's coming. I remember some of us getting really good at recognizing when a layoff was coming, for example. There were certain patterns of company moves and announcements and behaviors. It's like, oh, they're going to announce a layoff pretty soon, aren't they? Or they're going to acquire a company pretty soon. Or we're up for a big leadership change or a strategy change. You start to recognize these patterns, and then you can do something about it proactively. You start to recognize organizational politics. It becomes very familiar, like, oh, it's this game again. And individual behavior. How your colleagues are behaving, what they're doing, what you think they're up to. And it's not always friendly and collaborative, folks. I'm so sorry. That was one of the hard lessons I learned as I moved up into the executive ranks, is like, wow, this is pretty cutthroat. And there is behavior that is kind of cutthroat. But you start to recognize it, and you start to get ahead of it and protect yourself and your team from it. Leveling up your corporate chess game beyond checkers requires deeply learning corporate rules, how organizations function, individual motivations, why are people doing what they do, the psychology of that. The more experience you gain, the more you should start recognizing patterns and how to quickly and successfully navigate them before it's too late. Number 4, make sacrificial moves when necessary. When you have a long-term vision and strategy for your career, you know how to keep your eye on the big prize instead of being distracted by short-term benefits. If you've ever hiked to a mountaintop, and I've used this example before because I love hiking, I love mountains. But if you've ever done that, you know it's never a straight and obvious shot to get there. You don't just run straight up the mountain to the mountaintop. There are paths that have been constructed for various reasons. Sometimes for the ability to just get there without a crazy elevation climb that would just completely wreck you. Sometimes it's because there's obstacles, there's cliffs, there's boulders, there's rivers. So the nearby moves may seem counterintuitive. Sometimes you move sideways. You're like, why are we just going sideways? We're traversing. Sometimes you actually go backwards. You're kind of moving down slope, but that's so you can transfer to another trail that's going to help you get around an obstacle. And that happens with your corporate career too. For example, one job might pay more immediately. Hey, look at that. The base salary is better than this other company's offer. But another might set you up for later promotions and better long-term earning potential. I often talk about how this is essential to searching for your next job. In the job search workshop that I hosted a couple of months ago, I talked about this, that you have to look at various factors in competing employers' offers. It's not always just an apples to apples comparison of base compensation to base compensation. There may be a move that's better in terms of, hey, the leadership at this company's better. They're more respected. They're intelligent. They make good decisions. They're good people to be connected to. You may have more supportive management. And I've said this a million times. I would rather work for a supportive manager who's going to mentor me and promote me at a mediocre company than go to a great company and work for a jerk that treats me like crap, that never promotes me, that blackballs my career. More challenging projects. What good is it to go to a company that's, hey, this is an amazing company, and you work on one of the most low-level, boring projects that will do nothing for your career versus something challenging that's going to help you learn something, learn a new technology, gain more powerful skills. Sometimes it's about access to talented people. I know somebody who made a choice between a lot of different employers. They had pretty much any job they could want. They were really good. And they went to a company that was like, why are they going to that company? Wasn't the most exciting company. But then I saw what they were doing. They were getting access to some pretty talented people that had been acqui-hired into that company. And they wanted to build their network. They wanted to get close to these people because those people went on, one in particular, to found a $1 billion startup. So kind of nice to be close to people like that. And it can be about building relationships with movers and shakers. I've seen people go to smaller companies instead of a massive corporation because they are going to spend time working directly with the C-level leadership. They're going to get to meet investors. They're going to present to the board. That can really set you up for later moves in your career. Or maybe it helps you create a stronger professional reputation. I know some FANG companies that will not allow you to speak externally, to do public speaking, unless you're on an approved list. And I know somebody who was never allowed to be on the approved list versus being at a smaller company or a company that's not so ridiculous and being able to do talks, be on panels, get your name out there, build your professional brand, which opens doors for you forever. You can become a more powerful piece on the professional chessboard of life instead of being stuck in checker mode forever, if you make the right choices. And then finally, number 5, playing leadership chess too. So if and when you do move into leadership roles, you become a manager of people, or if you are already, this chess versus checker strategy comes into play again. Because now it's about you recognizing that your team members are not simple checker pieces to be placed willy-nilly on the board. Some managers, who I will say are terrible managers, do that. They don't think about the individuals. They just throw people on projects, whoever's available, and they're not thinking about each person. And each person has unique talents, very different backgrounds and experiences. They have very different goals. For example, you don't want to treat a queen like a pawn and give that person a project that doesn't leverage their strengths. I've seen that. Putting a high-powered person on a crappy project, and they were like, is this what I'm going to be working on? Then screw this. I'm going to quit this company. I'm going to go somewhere else. And on the flip side, you also don't want to overload a pawn with a complex project that's far beyond their capabilities and they burn out or they fail. Also, playing chess means that you understand that people are not interchangeable checker pieces. They are not all the same. They do not all have the same value. You must learn in your team who you're going to invest in retaining, who you're going to invest in growing, because you can't retain and grow every single person. Who are the people that will benefit the most from mentoring, from coaching? Who isn't playing well with the other pieces on the board? You can't simply swap in a new person and expect them to behave and perform like everyone else. People are not checker pieces. You can't do that. So you have to be very intentional about how you treat the chess pieces in your organization. And finally, successful leadership does require strategic vision and planning several moves ahead. The best leaders do that. When a leader does not have vision, do you feel inspired to follow that leader? When a leader is not planning several moves ahead, do you trust that leader, or are you scared now? It's like, I don't think they know what they're doing. So if you want to be a successful leader, you have to start recognizing behavior patterns in other leaders so you can anticipate their next moves. What are they up to? What's coming? You have to plan your move. You have to survive the inevitable politics of playing at that level, and there are politics. Leaders who try to play the corporate game like checkers, they're just focused on the next move, hopping around, they don't tend to last very long. They get demoted or fired. So yeah, start playing chess in your career. I mean, if you're happy with your job and you don't care about getting promoted, you'd rather focus more on work-life balance, you know what? It's okay. There's nothing wrong with playing checkers at work. Just do good work, get paid, and then go home to your friends and your family to enjoy your personal life. Put in a 9 to 5, go home for dinner with your family, have the weekends off, don't work at night. And believe me, I get it. If you follow my Solopreneur podcast, if you go to newsletter.invinciblesolopreneurs.com, you'll understand that that's why I left the corporate world. I left back in 2010. And I built a lifestyle solopreneur business because, I had kind of killed myself for decades to get ahead. Yes, I did become an executive. I did found my own startup. I paid a price. And so I wanted to live a life. So I get it. I understand that. However, if you are ambitious and you really want to get ahead at work, you really want to move up the career ladder, you want to reach your biggest goals, you have a vision for your career, then you must learn the rules of the corporate chess game. You have to become more powerful. You have to become more valuable. You have to play strategically, and you have to be prepared for how hard your colleagues, who are often your competitors, are going to play too. You have to be ready for that. Those top leadership positions become increasingly rare as you advance in the organization. Playing checkers won't put you in those seats. But playing a clever game of corporate chess just might. By the way, so if you have heard me talk about my community before, I have an Invincible Career community, and for how many years now? 7 years, 6 years, something like that. It's been on Slack. I started using Slack. And then Slack changed. It got acquired. They started doing terrible things with pricing and archiving after 90 days. So you lose all your messages and files unless you want to pay an exorbitant fee. And so I said, enough is enough. I'm done with that. So I shut down the Slack team and I'm rebuilding my community from scratch on Discord. I love Discord. My sons introduced me to it. They are gamers. And so I was like, what is this? And as I started using it, I said, this is pretty cool. I love Discord. So my Invincible Career community is now on Discord. If you are interested in joining a friendly, supportive community of ambitious peers who are not competing with you, because they are not your coworkers, if you upgrade the Invincible Career newsletter subscription, become a premium subscriber, which doesn't cost very much, I can send you an invitation and then you can join the Discord. So go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com. This is Play Chess in Your Career, Not Checkers, issue 574. And you can find the links for all that. You can find the link to book a free call with me, to join the community, you name it. Hope this was helpful. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck in becoming an opportunity magnet for the best things in life.